Hey everybody, Espira, and welcome to the relaunch of the Super Combo podcast. This time though, I'm not alone. I am joined by Chris of Unix DBS as our official co-host. Chris, how you doing today?
Well, it's kind of a dragging day, but hearing official and then co-host kind of just gave me that boost of serotonin. Feel a little nice.
Yeah, it's been a busy last couple of months. I mean, on my end, absolutely horrendous. I haven't posted content in a hot minute, but naturally that's because we had nationals running, there was worlds running, and I had the grace to be able to work with my teammates and Badna on that, which was super awesome. And actually, one of our topics today, we're going to be covering a number of things, most notably worlds, the group stage, as well as the finals. There were a couple of card reveals, and on that same note, we'll talk about our hopes and predictions for set 15, the gift box and mythic booster box. Well, the gift box is released now, and then the mythic booster box coming down the road, but for some Europeans it's arrived on time. Will be our final topic, and then we'll have thinking on charge, which is our question segment. So kicking us off, we had the Worlds qualifier. So for those guys who don't know, of course, we had the nationals. Every region had its chance at being able to name a national champion and send their representative to the world champion. This equated to 7 regions being able to send in their representative, and the North American region ended up also being able to send the runner-up to make a nice clean 8. The way they did is that they started with a group stage where, if you guys ever watched soccer, the way that they do the preliminaries there are 2 groups, and then the top of the pod, the top 2, end up moving on to what would end up being the top cut bracket from then on forward. Very exciting. We had a lot of good variation of decks, great play. Did you end up catching any of it, Chris?
I caught all of it except for the final round, actually. I was a little busy, and I caught the very end of it, though. It was kind of one of those things where I was on my way home from work, and I was like, oh, let me just put on Twitch real quick. And then everybody was pretty much in the just chat talking about how easy clap it was. No offense to anybody involved. I'm not saying that Juan was easy. I'm saying the matchup was definitely not maybe as favorable as it could have been. But the chat was going off, and I was like, oh. So, and then by the time I'd gotten in my house, it was like a 45-minute drive. By the time I got in my house, the writing was on the wall. So, yeah, I didn't catch the last one, but the last one seems to have gone by fairly quickly.
Yeah, Andrew Duval actually being named the world champion. And I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but when we named him as the national champion over in Pasadena, me, Eggman, and Andrew all looked at each other as we accidentally said world champion, and then we kind of okay, eventually, maybe. And then ended up just kind of going and doing the cleanup duty there. But yeah, huge shout out to Andrew Duval. A fantastic, humble interview afterwards. Great rep. I mean, also, for what it's worth, he's a stand-up guy, because he was definitely at the center of a lot of memeage coming out of the group stage.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing, though. I think that's an important lesson for people to kind of get. Tilt can define the rest of your tournament experience, and especially whether you're either insecure as a player or you're incredibly critical of yourself as a player. Tilt can make or break the rest of your event. So with a player who is as sharp and cerebral as Duval, there's no way that game 3-8 for the win did not just live in his brain rent free for the following week. So for him to come back and bounce back with a flawless just clapping up to the top really just shows you that you don't have to go on tilt and just kind of end your own run. You can actually take those things into consideration and sharpen yourself. But it was spectacle to see. VSA boys really have been going at it since that one.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help himself either. I will say the whole no playmat using tissues as tokens has definitely lent itself to its own level of image. But
the make a duelist.
Yeah, I'm coming right off the value menu, my guy right here. But absolute, wonderful showcase on his end. And when we're talking about the tournament as a whole, a pretty good deck rep. We did have a couple of Icaruses. I think we had Gogeta Xeno. We had, and then there was some of the weirder decks. I will say, I think we all expected Jared to be bringing Android 16. It's what got him at Nats. I think it's only natural that he decided to take his pet deck, which, according to all the players I've heard, this is the only deck he really runs. So, I mean, fantastic for him. Had a fun showing there. I wasn't actually able to catch his game with Poe, but I did hear that the clutch SCR on Poe's side made a huge difference going into their game 3, which actually closed up the game for him. So, really, fantastic run on Poe, who actually ended up running starter deck Broly as his leader for the entire tournament.
I have things about that.
Yeah,
personal favorite.
Yeah, so it was a huge pick for the tournament. I mean, got him to the top cut stage, was phenomenal. And I have to say, his sideboard was like incredibly hilarious. He had not only was he playing with this playmat upside down because it said champion on it, so he just wanted to make sure the stream saw it correctly. In his first game of stage, group stage, he pulled out a I can win this like SPR Piccolo. And then in his sideboard, he had I am the world champion, as well as the green cell. What's the green card that like your opponent can like OTK themselves for one?
Commemorative photo.
Yeah, and he also had commemorative photo. So mind you, a lot of cards in there that he couldn't even actually cast, like play whatsoever. They're just there to live as confident as he was. So awesome representation there. I think pretty, for the most part, pretty good. Like what we were expecting. I think especially going into the group stage, you take Green Broly out of it, and the rest of it was Cell Surge, Icarus, and Gogeta Xeno. So I guess the question to come out of this, and I think people have been feeling it for a while, is like pretty much at this point, the format's solved, right? Like I think there's a little bit of room. Post showed us that there are decks that can definitely do some interesting things if players aren't ready for it, but I don't feel like moving forward much is going to change until we get the new stuff, which is probably marked for March, I think.
I am so sad it's that long, but delays are delays, and sometimes it be happening. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The format's solved. Like you might be able to find some spicy things, but even those spicy deck lists depend on the format. Like the moment I saw Green Broly get put down on like a winners list, I already know. I was like, man, people are playing mad Cell Surge in his region, because that like seems to be like the matchup where you'd just eat the most with Green Broly. And I'm also like, I love it because it kind of feels like the manliest way you could take on Cell Surge, because lots of people look at the draw 6 when you swing and they're like, okay, so Cell Surge can't bottom you out. And I'm like, no, like Cell Surge will bottom out whatever 4 cards you go into your next turn with instantaneously. But you get to start your turn, draw 6 cards, give them the most manly 6 card plays, and then see if they can kill you next turn. If they can't, cool, you're about to do it again. So I kind of really love the dynamic. But like, I mean, yeah, the format is solved. It's just more of whatever's popular at the moment may be able to give room for other decks. Like for whatever reason, let's just say in a month or two, Soul Striker has a massive resurgence. If you don't think I'm sleeving up U7 Gohan and just steamrolling a room of just Soul Striker, you're smoking. You're on that loud pack. But I mean, like, yeah, it really pretty much is just whatever's more prevalent versus its road picks, and then you have the normal triangle. So until March.
Yeah, but it's coming, and we did get a couple of card reveals, which we are about to jump into in a minute now. But so for the most part, still very exciting. I think a lot of like very solid gameplay. I mean, Juan Soto only ended up dropping a game in Top Cut. Like even before that, he was completely undefeated. So huge win there for the Latin Americans, who actually didn't even have access to like BT15. Now you could argue that really only represented 1 or 2 cards for Gogeta Xeno, but I will say moving forward, I do hope that Bandai recognizes that if a region doesn't have access to a set, it should probably be banned for that specific tournament, just to equalize the playing field. But either way, I don't think it made a significant difference. I think Andrew Duval very handedly won that matchup. I mean, that Vegeta unison like absolutely shuts down all of Gogeta. So when you combine the fact that he can't swing with like his 6-drop Gogetas, and then when his 1-drops try to do their thing, he can just counterplay them before they come in, is like absolutely gross. And pretty much is what sealed him the win going into game 3, because Andrew Duval ended up being able to down tick his Vegeta, I think 4 times, meaning that Juan could not swing with a single 6-drop until turn 6.
Yeah.
So that was incredibly tough to watch on one end, but on the other end, just like absolutely eviscerated the matchup. So again, huge congrats there. And we did get with the interview that Andrew Duval said two very interesting designs, because for those guys who don't know, the winner of the tournament would also get to work with Bandai to design a card. And he gave two very. So we got the player answer sheets before the tournament, just so there are things that we could talk about on stream whenever we had some fluff time. And Andrew Duval's designer card was just left as a secret, but he decided to reveal it on stream, which was pretty sick. So his first design would be a blue-green Herudagarn, where basically it kind of be like SS4 Bardock, where he has multiple abilities based on the criteria, but instead of being colors in your energy, it's the number of energy. So like if you awakened and you have 2 energy, you get some effect. 4 energy, you get some effect, and then 6 energy, you get some effect. And they like vary from drawing a card to like bottom decking a unison and stuff like that. And it was cool design. Now I think his current iteration might be a little too crazy, and I think Bandai might have to rein it in power level. But I thought that was like a really cool design in terms of that. And at least it's cool that he's thinking in the blue space and trying to give them something different than what like Soul Striker and untapping and all that seems to be doing. Because even in the most recent sets, if we're not playing Soul Striker, if Soul Striker wasn't there, I think we're just playing Kaba, which is like an untapped leader again that just kind of does it a little bit differently. So I thought that was like a really cool design in terms of what you could do when you want to put your mind into designing a card with Bandai.
All right. Now I know Doval is big brain IQ and I am Scrubomatic 3000. But I've been like diving really hard into like this game's design space. And I feel like one thing that this game is severely lacking right now are deck designs where you actually have to work to get to the end game. That's actually my biggest problem with Yellow right now. Yellow is a mid-range deck. And I feel like that means that Yellow should fight its hardest to make it to its mid-range turns. And then they should understand that if, they get too far in the game, a blue deck should probably cap them pretty hard. But right now, between Riposte, Power of a Super Saiyan, and a couple other cards, Yellow has no issues getting to turn 4, 5, and 6. So you easy cruise straight into your turns, and then you get to play in your most powerful state of the game. A Herudagarn that gains more effects as you get energy in blue is just like a leader that gets better because your color allows it to get better. So that scares me a little bit because like like that, you see what I mean? Like that's a little scary to me. Like if there's any color that's going to allow you to get to those effects without question, is blue. So I'm just not the biggest fan of a card literally rewarding you for doing what you were going to do anyway. I feel like you should have to work for your best effects. And I think this game just does that a little too often right now.
Yeah, it not only does it feel like a lot of the archetypes are cookie cutter. You have like really hard archetypes. Like here's the thing, like King Cold is a phenomenal archetype. It plays really well, it plays really smooth, but you have like a wiggle room of about like 6 cards, So the archetypes run really smooth and they do a lot to give you like the work for free. Like you said, like Yellow right now is definitely mid-range. It's focused on mid-range. Like even if you were trying to play archetypally, a lot of it leans on being mid-rangey and grinding out. And right now, like you were saying, it's just so incredibly free. You get a Power of the Super Saiyan, which like just shuts down everything. You get a free draw with it, which sets up your Poutine. So now you have that on board. You have Slug, which prevents your opponent from being able to out-advantage you. And then even beyond that, you have Riposte, which is live as of turn 2 for 1 energy, which is a topo that doesn't require a pitch when you play it. So like it just definitely feels like not even just with Yellow, but for a lot of either archetypes or just the way that generic strategies in certain colors work right now, they definitely just happens. And it feels like the effort isn't so much in getting to a place where your deck is comfortable, but more so just like maybe being able to close out the game or just making those right turn 4, turn 5 decisions to be able to get there. So I will say that is incredibly powerful in blue, like you're saying, especially since he was leaning it to be a blue-green, which is like, okay, well, we already have blue-green ramp. And then if we have if they made a leader to incentivize that kind of playstyle, I would imagine they'd design some archetypal cards around it as well. So it's definitely something to look at. But like, hey, if Bandai doesn't like that, he did say Invoker Unison.
Okay, yeah. See, that's the second time. That is the second time I will blatantly look at the opinion of the first world champion and just be like, nah, that ain't it, Chief. Like, the Chief called, and he specifically told me that ain't it. Like, I'm sorry, Evan. I'm sorry, Duvall. I'm sorry, George. Like, Invoker is a deck where I feel like it's part of the past. I don't think it ever needs to come back because of how it was made. It's so funky. It's all right. Oh, this is Invoker as a concept. First off, just self-plug. If you haven't seen part 4 of my color identity video, go check it out. Set 9 introduced 2 keywords. And in the past, every multicolor keyword had something to do with the identities of both colors. Set 9 just said, I cheat out extras and I cheat out battle cards. Like, there was no color synergy. Like, you look at some of these things, like what's a good example? Like, you look at Alliance, it was a very punchy effect, but it was like green red. You look at Aegis, and it was a very blue effect with the untapping, but it was in blue yellow. And then you just look at Invoker, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything blue or red. It's just I cheat extras. And the successors, same with battle cards. So it's like Invoker was a really weird deck because it had control aspects, but it had a boss card that could punch you to death with a victory strike, but it had an alternative win condition to burn you. There was no way to play correctly against Invoker. It's like, if you keep your life high, you're going to get victory struck. If you keep your life low, you're going to get cat blowed. By the way, I'm looking at your hand and ripping a card. Like, there was, nah, man, Invoker can stay dead. I'm so sorry. Like, for all you fans, that, like, they literally just looked at it and they're like, it's Goku. It's his best form. Let's crack the absolute, like, just off. I cannot. Conceptually, that deck is so overtuned. And I don't know if there's a way to introduce support to it without it being still overtuned. Like, I'm not sure.
Humor me for a second.
Okay.
One specified blue, one specified red. 5K unison. It doesn't even have to be big. I don't give a shit how big it is. All right. Invoker base. Just Invoker base +1 untap and energy. Minus, I don't know, 4. Grab 2 blue-red extra cards from your dropper or put them in your hand. That's all we want. That's it. That's all it's got.
Wait. It has Invoker as a keyword.
Yeah, just base. Like, it's just an Invoker unison.
And it will +1 to untap and energy.
Yeah.
So essentially, every turn, that card, it'll just be 1 free spell, but it's also going to be able to open. Is that a activate main, or is that like an auto? It's just not activate main +1 activate main.
Yeah, so like you'll have Invoker as it's just a keyword it has, and then you got your +1 marker ability on a 5K unison, so it'll be 3 markers by the time it's your opponent's turn 2 if you went first. And you just have the 1 energy up to be able to make your defensive plays. And then you have an energy, and you got a unison coasting on board.
I feel like it's a trap because at 5K and no effect that immediately impacts the board, you would be like, you're not dangerous. But is that unison ever coming off the board?
I promise you that unison is never coming off the board.
That's the thing. That is like, just, I'm like, nah. You can't fool me. I'm like, 5K, okay, nice try. Mans will sit there cruising.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not on the design team.
Like, cruising. I just see, like, yeah, I'm definitely been kind of hunkering down on some of that stuff, and there's some things that I need to happen. Like, I'm already kind of, actually, we're going to be talking about the new spoiled cards soon, so I'll leave that to that. And I was also actually about to record a video with my own predictions going into that, but you know what? Maybe I'll just take another day off and figure out something else to draft, because we're probably going to go into it on here. So I'll see. Depending on how much we talk about here, I'll see if it still warrants a video on my channel. But freaking, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, see, this is why, if you're listening, Bandai, you just need to hire me, because I am not just about, like, I love the flavor that happens in this game. I love how often you can actually look at cards and see their flavor. Like, I can tell people all day, like, when the first veggies came out and it was just Kaba who searched Kale and Caulifla, which makes sense since he recruited them. You had Kale who would blow up cards, but also blow up a card on your board too, because she's untamable, unless you had her best friend's sister, wife, Caulifla on board, who would stop her from, she would control the violence. Like, flavor is a huge part of this game. So I love that. And I do want competitive cards, but I'm also not going to sit here and pretend like certain things don't need to happen. Like Turles all too easy. Why? Why is he there? The whole point of yellow is you have so much control, but you can't really control the board presence. You can tap it down. You can keep it tapped for an extra turn, but you have to figure out how to close out the game because your opponent's board is going to get bigger and bigger, and you only have so many effects that tap down your opponent's stuff, so many funnel effects. At some point, you have to face the music until you start getting cards like Turles, who is an incredible card for 2 energy, destroys cards. You can't do so many things at one time. He's a double strike for 2. That's cool, but he destroys up to 2 cards. That's cool, but you can't even draw him dead because, like, in the lab, they were just like, well, what happens if they don't have 2 cards? And it's like, well, you know what? You're right. We'll never want to draw any card dead in yellow. That'd be stupid. He's going to draw 1 card and just blow up the only card they have on the field. It's like, oh, well, why didn't you just tell me this sooner? Like, there are cards that shouldn't be here, especially when green is unplayable for the entire set. Can't make cards like Turles while green has 0 playable cards from Sancho. Except the Unison. The Unison's busted.
Yeah, the Unison's broken.
Like, they just low-key slid that in there. They're like, so I want to make this Unison. You know damn well that if you're not yellow, you can't have cards built as well. All right, well, what do I have to pay? The entry cost will be the entirety of your color this set. We'll have to just put all of our chips in next set, won't we? I'm making this Unison. So be it. The rest of green shall be ass.
Like, hopefully, man. Because I haven't given up on my 101s. I was just incredibly busy with Nats and Worlds, but those will be coming out. So, like, this is the first time I actually took a hard look at, like, the archetypes and what they're meant to do. And, bro, I'm reading these, like, Vegeta and Goku archetypes, bro, and I'm just like, I don't see it. Like, why am I doing any of this? Like, it feels like I'm putting a lot of work into doing a whole lot of nothing. So I don't know. Dude, I just want, it'd be nice if, like, whoever the guy was designing yellow would, like, pivot teams for, like, a set or two and pivot, like, design some red, design some green. Like, I don't know, man. They need to get some rotation because, like, the yellow guy, I don't know how he's convincing the upper ups to, like, print. Because, like you said, yellow should be, like, stalling. Like, it's controlled, but it should be controlled in a way that, like, doesn't do everything. And then currently it kills, it draws, it stalls, it does everything. So it's just like, well, then why would I play any other color? So
it's like yellow has always had yellow at times has had a hard time finishing the opponent when Bandai hasn't decided to give it aggro for no reason. But like, it really, I think, should be a thing where you should have to. I think yellow is a color where you should have to mix colors to give it good finishers. I don't think yellow should naturally be able to go the distance on its own in that type of way. But the fact that yellow for a long time has just had some random cards. They're just like, oh, we're a control deck. But I mean, if you just want to throw a war cry in there, I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, this guy just came in for literally like doing what he was going to do anyway. He like removed, like, okay, guys, thank you for this. So it's kind of weird to me. And I'd like to think that there's like a backstory with these developers. Like, in my head, I always kind of joke about it being like just almost like a drama. Like, the dude who made Broly BR was so broken that they banished him before he could finish Red. And then so they had to make Gogeta BR, which was like, you could not pay me enough to believe that the same team made those 2 archetypes in the same set. Like, one of them broke the speed and laws of the game, and the other one had hard stop gaps. Like, you play this card for 3, and then you can evolve it for free. But you can't play any cards, any battle cards for the rest of the turn. You can't EX evolve for the rest of the turn. Meanwhile, on the same amount of energy, you are able to play Awaken, play more, establish another chain, body your opponent's entire life pool, overwhelm. I'm like, how? like, how? I just...
Yeah.
Man,
like
that dude hated Gogeta.
Yeah, especially since, like, Gogeta, like, barely does much, like, when he's going up his chain, whereas Broly, like, actively removes cards out of the hand. So you could go up your Broly chain. Then, for some reason, you can't in Gogeta, but in Broly, you can kill off your 6-drop, to go into the secret rare, which then reopens up the 6-drop that you can play again on another body, and then rip out another 3 cards out of your opponent's hand, and now their combos are all dead. And like, nah, I don't understand the hard stop gaps, because I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
It's not even that powerful.
like, it's like, cool, your guy swings and like he negs something off my board, but I'll negate and I'm coasting. So I don't.
In a format with Broly BR, Vegex, Go Tanks, Dark Broly, like all these things they introduce, it's like tap 3 on turn 3 to draw 2 cards and minus 15 to an entire board, and then pass. Meanwhile, Broly is like, do this, Vampa, do this, Awaken, untap, do this, Establish Chain, do this. I can go into the secret rare if I draw it. By the way, I've added 7 markers on my unison. I'm like, excuse me. Like, at some point, you just like start reading the effects, and you're like, but why though? Like, why did this card take a card out of my hand, swing for like 25k crit, and then just, oh, by the way, it comes into play and adds 2 markers onto my unison? Like, you play that unison for 1. It is turn 2. Why is it at 6 markers? Explain this to me. Like, what does it do? Like, okay, yeah, no. It's just, yeah, and it's just kind of weird. And you would like to think that every color gets it at some point, but that's not the case, because green, I don't know when's the last time anybody's ever called green broken. Like, yellow has had its dues. Yellow's not even broken now. Yellow's just, I think, too well rounded, and the card quality is just way better than other cards. I mean, red has had its time, even though that when people were most recently complaining about red. I'm just gonna put it out there. You can hate me if you lost to King Vegeta in its aggro prime. You just refuse to use widespread negates like that their entire game plan gets ruined by a single sensu beam, protector of the people, King Vegeta's imposing presence, like dormant, like literally any negate. You just didn't like using negates. You might be this, actually, whoa, I was about to go way off the deep end there. You just did not like running negates.
Yeah, I always stood by saying that, like, I think we complain a little too quickly. It's like, yeah, the FTK deck exists, but do you guys understand how many floodgates we have? Like, I don't understand how players are losing to the deck. Like, it might have caught you off guard if you're trying to play something janky, like, fair, fine. But like, as a known number in tournaments, like, just change. And it just feels like a lot of players aren't willing to change their decks to like accommodate a meta. So like I think like that was one of the things that Juan did really well going to this tournament, where he main decked like 3 super Kamehamehas because he just knew that he was going to get reposted. So like the first time that he played Icarus in his group stage, like he dominated the deck because like the player would leave up 1 energy, he would get counterplayed, and then he just went in. So like I definitely think players should just be adapting a little bit more. But I mean,
we should definitely understand that sometimes you can't go without running more cards. Like, you know, if the format's aggro heavy, you might have to run some more negates because it's important to live if you want to live to play all your other cards. You can't just be like, well, I don't want to run negates and I'm mad that I'm forced to run negates. Same people that would complain the most about FTK King Vegeta are the same people that don't want to use contraceptive and then get surprised when they get babies. Like, it's the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, run Protector of the People. If your locals is getting clapped every week by the same King Vegeta player, run some wide negates. I guarantee you're gonna slap them. You're gonna just slap them in the face. It's just, I don't know. People are wild.
Yeah. Though I guess to round out the conversation, we did talk about design and the different designs. What would you design if you had like a quick minute to say like, okay, I can design a card, Bandai. All right, bet. Like, here we go. What is the mind of Chris unleashing onto the Dragon Ball community?
Oof. You know. I'm trying to oof. This is wild. It's kind of weird because I think a lot of colors, I think red and green are the ones that I'd be most interested in, because blue already has everything I think it needs to have. I wouldn't want to design a card for blue. Like, I actually think one of the coolest cards in blue is Rise of a Super Saiyan, or Rise of a Super Warrior.
Mm.
It doesn't have deflect, but I think that is like the epitome of like a blue boss card. Like you just play it, you either draw or you ramp. It's beautiful. Um Honestly, for red, I think red has a lot of weirdness in playing in the mid-range game because every mid like red is currently not really faster than black unless you're playing Bardock's crew, but Bardock's crew has its own gaps of flimsiness depending on how your opponent plays. But red's not faster than black in a lot of cases, but red doesn't mid-range like blue or yellow in many cases right now. So its comfortable space is like a weird aggro early mid game window. I would like a burn card that red could try to close out the game with. But I don't like it being like a
Sounds
I
like you
think
just
red
want
should be
catastrophic blow.
nah, I think red should be high risk, high reward. Like discard 2 cards, crit 2 life, burn your opponent for 1 damage. And that sounds really, really, really like weird. Maybe even crit 3 life. That sounds really heavy. But I don't want you to be able to be like, I'm at 2 life, you're at 1, you're dead. Like I need you to
Right.
make sure that resource of life is high up enough to where like what were you gonna do with those 3 life in the next 5 turns? Lose them. Or if they're at 1 life, if a blue deck is at 1 life and you're at like 4, you can go down to 1 life to crit 1. Something, I don't know, something weird like that. But I like red to kind of have some more mid range because I'm not trying to throw any shade, but the card we got spoiled, that in it, Chief. Like if I'm tapping 4 energy in red, I'm gonna need that guy to have barrier and deflect because like what is
That's
he
your
going
turn.
to do?
Yeah, that's your turn, right?
That's my turn, and I'm going to swing twice at a base. What 20k was it?
He's beefy. He's a
He's
beefy.
beefy. He's beefier, but like it's just
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where he's not going to close off the game the turn he comes down. Like he probably could push, but in this game right now, there's so many ways to get above that number, and you can put stuff behind him. But chances are, like he's going to be a good tempo pusher. But for 4 energy in red, I don't need a tempo pusher. I need a game ender, and I'm not quite sure if he's that without barrier. Like homie can be open to a great many things. And if you don't kill your opponent, most cards in the game will end his life for you. So that kind of is weird. Green, I don't even know where green starts. Green needs some good leaders. I would have to make an entirely different segment to think about this question, man. There's literally far too much, but it's green or red. They
Right.
both need help.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that there. I think anything in that space would definitely push those colors to at least try to do something because like it feels like green and red have been doing the same thing for like 6 sets now. So I think
Floundering.
yeah.
Drowning.
Yeah, and like they've had some success, like we saw the Jiren deck do some once. We see Clash Coup come back once in a while. Go Tanks was a deck for a while, and it's still a decently consistent deck, but it feels like they've been very struggling to be tier 1 for ever. And outside of like I think the exception would be like KP, but KP was basically like a 45 card archetype. So like I have a tough time calling those archetypes that have like 45 cards in the deck like a red deck. Like I never called Swap Broly a red deck because like almost your entire 50 card deck was like Broly cards from the archetype. So like I think a nice meld of an archetype that would sit well with 20 to 25 base picks, and then the rest of the deck can be like float between either more archetypal support or going a little bit more generic is definitely would help in terms of like making those colors feels like they can stand up to what the other colors are doing at the moment. Because I agree, I think blue's fine. It does a lot of things. Yellow is obviously fine, and black finds its way. So
I just want it to be put on the record that I have taken personal offense that George has mentioned Jiren doing something one time before he mentioned Gohan doing something one time. I will stand by it. Jiren deck is absolute AIDS. If you Supreme Kai a established Jiren board, there is no way they come back from it. Period. There's no recursion. The boss card is savage until you realize he just has deflect and not barrier, and therefore is not as savage as you may have thought. Like, all right, I'm gonna digress. The other thing, the other thing is like everything he said is pretty much true. Yeah, except not mention Gohan part. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because I hold Gohan in the higher regards, you know? I mean, it was
We saw your
showcased
tier
on...
list.
It was, I mean, you're just mad because I put SS4 Bardock as a better deck than Gohan.
Yes, I am. That deck was booty.
That's so
all
good.
All of his cards did more work in a Toa deck. You have a leader that was made for the Archetype. And Toa was like, nope, mine now.
Nah. Okay, SS4 doesn't lose to a single Senzu being here. Okay, let's not be too crazy.
That's fair. That is fair. It just leaves us to any valid deck.
Oh my god.
I'm not going to say any valid deck because we have had some people do some work with it. Like, shout out to Mr. Perez. Like, it's done some work. It's just, it just, I don't know, man. There's something, it still needs some things.
That's fair. I mean, I'd be fine with more support, not gonna lie. But that's very fair evaluation.
Its SER is also like the most non-threatening SER of all time. Like, if I'm sitting here thinking about what you could possibly play on me, oh man, am I gonna swing into a pan? Is he gonna Kai me and then just clap me on the next one? If you just play SS4 like the negate, I'm gonna be like, whew, sheesh, all right, we're fine. We're fine. Like, I don't
know what you're smoking. That card's cracked. It is basically a hatch that removes your entire board.
I mean, yeah, but like, I'm not really afraid of a hatch either. Like, hatch comes down, it stops me, and then they die the next turn.
Okay, all right.
But then again, I've been playing red versus blue, not like a mid-range deck versus blue. Normally, the way it goes with my Gohan deck, if I go first, then you get pushed down to like 3 or 2 life on my turn 3. On your turn 2, you have to hatch me the very next turn. And then you have to deal with the fact that you had to hatch on 3 energy and you probably die the very next turn. That's literally how it goes. But I assume that, yes, playing with other decks that don't just try to go full red aggro, you would be in a weird position getting hatched and then having to, be in the mid game getting hatched versus hatching on turn 3 on the back foot. So I will give that. It's probably different when you're not playing an aggressive deck, a super aggressive deck.
Yeah. But we did touch on, red, green, and so on and so forth. And we actually did get a number of reveals. So I'll try and actually go sequentially since it keeps the conversation live. And we mentioned it first, so why not hit on the red card? So one of the first things that we got a showcase was, I don't even know what its front side looks like, but I don't really care because I think this leader's kind of garbo, if you ask me. Son Goku Supreme War. I mean, I'll just keep it 100, Permanent, you can't send cards from your drop to your warp, so you can't overwhelm with this deck. It's a 15k Universe 7 Red Goku. Has an activate main that once per turn you draw a card and then place 3 cards from the top of your deck to your drop. So, that's actually kind of cool. And it hints at maybe like a red Vegex potential archetype. So like I don't hate that. Plus, you don't need to interact with your opponent to draw a card. I don't mind that at all. Activate main, it has like some ultimate that it can only do once a game where you get to add a mono red Universe 7 card from your drop to your air. So if you mill out your boss monster or whatever you need at that point, you can get it back once a game. Once you have Sparking 7. And the okay, Sparking 20, I guess, but we already can't overwhelm, so I guess that doesn't matter in the deck. So I'm not a big fan of the leader, but it does lead into the red SR SPR that we got kind of well, where it also needs Sparking 20. Son Goku Ultra Mastery is a 8 cost 6 specified red 35k. Son Goku Universe 7 with Deflect, Double Strike, Dual Attack. Auto once per turn for Sparking 20. When it swings, you get to choose 1 card in your opponent's hand when it costs a 7 or less and discard it. So kind of like a red Broly Crown, but a little bit more powerful, and you get it on a swing. And then activate main for quad red if there are 10 or more Universe 7s, which kind of locks us to a Universe 7 archetype for the most part. In your drop, you get to play it from your hand and then board wipe your opponent for minus 35k. But again, you can't overwhelm Raven. So they're okay. Like I don't, for a Universe 7 deck, I don't hate Son Goku living there as like a one of. Like if my opponent's in a situation where like he just sequenced terribly and I have an opening to do something. But generally speaking, I'm not like, and I'll leave my opinions left for like maybe if the archetype ends up being a red Vegex, it ends up being really good because the rest of the deck we just free play or whatever. But I'm not and I'm a huge U7 stan, and I don't vibe this deck at all so far.
All right. You're gonna get a double dose of this, viewers, if you listen to this discussion and then you come to my channel the following day. I mean, I don't know when the discussion's going up, but I know I'm gonna be putting this up in actual time the following day. This card, it literally hurts. Like, first, I will touch on the freaking Goku. So it is cool on his front side. You still can't send things to the warp. He has his activate main, and activate main, burst 3, draw 1 card, and then you choose one of your cards in your hand, discard it. People are already talking about how he can't overwhelm. That's important though. Like, this dude could, if you could overwhelm, the amount of aggression you could put out with this leader would be absolutely stupid. Like, do you understand how annoying it would be to, I don't know, turn 1, burst 3, draw a card, play a 1-drop Gohan, search. Turn 2, you could burst 3, draw a card, and then you not only have whatever you're going to play on 2 energy, but you could fighting against fate, like, right off the rip. Like, the amount of aggression this deck could put out if they didn't put that clause there would be ignorant. And unfortunately, this isn't yellow, so they want to actually balance the card as a whole. So they made sure that you just couldn't go OG ape crazy with these overwhelms. The leader does awaken at 4 less life, or if there are 7 or more Universe 7 in your drop area. So the other cool thing about this is it doesn't restrict your life. You can flip over at whatever life total you are at if you have 7 or more U7 things in there. So potentially, because of his activate main, you could awaken on turn 2. Lots of the leaders have been awakening on turn 2. You'll see the Trunks thing does it the same way. But moving on to the SR. Art, fire on the SPR.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Interestingly odd on the SR. Effect, not bad, but booty compared to what the general populace is hyping it up to be. I'm so sorry, people, but I keep hearing people say that this is going to be like an auto include in their Gohan deck. Like, it's just going to save Gohan. This is going to bring Gohan to the forefront. I don't know what format you were playing in. If you believe your Gohan deck was just sitting at turn 4 and 5, just thriving, like, without a care in the world. Like, I know everybody does testing, and I can't say I've done, like, more testing than other people. I know I've done an extensive amount of testing, but you don't make it to turn 5 against Cell Surge with this deck not pushing it without having your hand ripped to absolute shreds. You don't make it to turn 5 against Yellow without fighting for your life, unless you were literally holding Fu Shrouded in Mystery in hand going, one more turn, baby. Like, if you're at turn 5 against Blue, they are literally playing better cards for you than you at every turn. Like, this card gets played in the space of the game where naturally you should not be. Like, you're never gonna convince me that playing this one card is ever going to be better than dropping double Divine Presence on somebody with the same energy. Like, you'd have to literally, like, show me a PowerPoint documentary. Like, just, you need to convince me. I don't see it. It also doesn't have barrier. So there's a lot of things that are going to just destroy it if you don't close out game with it. And again, you just tapped 4 for something that you could have also just dropped 2 Divine Presence on, had literally 4 times the swings. Yeah, you don't get to look at your opponent, or 2 times the swings. You don't get to look at your opponent's hand. But, I mean, 4 30k swings is kind of monstrous, like, for the same amount of energy. So, I'm not really vibing this card, but it also is partially because I'm seeing a lot of people saying it's an auto-including Gohan, and I just want to know what format they live in that Gohan is playing mid-range better than actual mid-range decks.
Yeah.
So, that's just me.
And like the most comparable card to me for this one is the yellow, like, Dragon Fist Goku that, like, does similar, like, you can play it out for 3 instead of 4, and then it prevents, like, you can Spirit Boost to prevent your opponent from being able to activate battle card effects. Like, that card is, like, bonkers, and you get it for 1 less energy, and, like, it does relatively similar things. So it's just, I don't know, I'm not seeing it. I think it's cute. Again, like we said, the art's great, but competitively, I think it's a little bit, like, maybe the Archetype makes it worth it. Maybe there's some Archetype support in there that we obviously haven't seen yet that makes it worth it. But at the moment, I think, bro, you're in red, you're tapping out 4. That's your turn, dog. And I don't know if this is enough to get there.
Bro, the only way that the archetype can make it worth it is if we get like a Master Roshi that's like sparking 15. You can play this guy by, I don't know, like bottom decking 4 Universe 7s and untap 2 energy. Like, that's the only way I feel like this card isn't worth it. Because, again, like, yeah, tapping for 4. You out your mind. Like, what am I doing for free?
Yeah.
I will Wolf Fang Fist you, maybe. I will Yamcha you, and then I will get just absolutely curb stomped throughout the rest of your turn. Yeah, that's steep.
Yeah.
Same people that love this card are probably playing Goku Frieza as their SCR. All right, let me calm down before I get a little too salty. I've been biting my tongue a fair amount. I've been arguing people low key on Facebook. I'm just like, I can't help you. If you believe that Kai or Pan loses a slot to Goku Frieza, I cannot help you.
Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, I don't. Well, moving on to something we're a little bit more optimistic about, I think, on both ends. There's also the Trunks leader that was revealed during the Nats. I feel really good about this one. Like, I don't play black, and this one makes me want to play black. We have Trunks, a 10k leader. Trunks Xeno. Activate main once per turn. You get to choose 1 black card in your hand and send to your warp to draw 2 cards. Again, we're not interacting with our opponent here to draw, and we're saying directly to warp. Yeah, I hope you guys like the Gogeta package because we're certainly going to see more of that. Awaken. When your life is at 4 or less, or there are 5 or more Saiyan cards in your warp, you may draw 1 card, switch up to 1 energy to active mode, and flip it over. Where on the flip side, we finally have the arrival of Super Saiyan God Trunks, the Crimson Warrior. Blocker, which is kind of weird. We've seen Blocker on the Xenosin leader as well. Auto. When this card attacks, you get to draw 2 cards, then choose 1 card in your hand and set it to your warp. Auto, once per turn, when your opponent attacks a Unison card, switch this card to active mode, which is kind of nice. It means that you do get the restand and block on that front. And then activate main once per turn, Spirit Boost, 1 for 1 energy. Place 2 black battle cards from your warp into their owner's drop. You get to choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. I don't know, man. This leader sounds like it does it all.
Yeah. All I gotta say is, for anybody that started watching my channel during my Dark Broly days, like, welcome back home. We are definitely looking at black super intensely next set. It was prophesized by the gods. Like, one, if you have been a fan, you've noted that I've like Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia conspiracy boarded Super Saiyan God Trunks into the past like 5 set speculations, because it always seems like there's a reason for him to be in the set. And then they just juke me. It's like Mecha you know who killed Mecha Super Saiyan God Trunks. You know who's not in this set? Super Saiyan God Trunks. You know who is in the set? Supreme Kai of Time. That awesome. that makes a lot of sense. They reveal like Unisons, and I see Super Saiyan 4 Bardock, and I was like, you know who paired up with Super Saiyan 4 Bardock and Heroes? Super Saiyan God Trunks. I am ready. Okay, well, that's cool too. So I'm happy that he's here. Second, little ongoing joke. Too many Chris's in college. We all assigned each other colors and made a Facebook group called Chris Rangers. I was assigned Crimson. So I've been Crimson Ranger since I was 21. 19, 20, 21. Point being, when we get this Crimson, like, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even have a, like, it's calling to me. We have the same hair. Like, it's literally calling to me. So I'm definitely about to cop this leader. But onto its mechanical side, like George said, it doesn't have to interact with your opponent to draw. That's a very, very, very dangerous point, because in colors like red and black, you have maybe not like the widest, but you have a better access to low to the ground crit than most other colors. So when you don't have to give your opponent that card for your leader swing, and you have access to critical threats like, I don't know, per se, Ravager Vegeta, you're going to be able to apply awkward amounts of pressure on your opponent. Like, I'm getting my advantage, you're not getting any of yours. The other thing is his compatibility with the current black cards. Like, this leader is so good, you can play him with the current cards that are out, and he's still viable. Believe me, I have been working on it. But when we see his actual archetype and we were starting to get a taste of it, it's going to be even more
bonkers. This leader really does everything, and on top of that, his awakening turn is so powerful. Like, you can remove a card from your hand and draw 2. That's a +1, and you filter 2 cards. Then you can awaken, drawing 1 and untapping 1. That's going to be a +2, but you filter 3 cards, and you get to swing with him, draw 2 cards, and you get rid of 1. So you're filtering a total of 5 cards, and you're going +3 on that exchange. That is a crazy, crazy, crazy awakening turn, considering that those exchanges of effects set up your Gogeta Zenos. They set up like more stuff that we'll probably see in the set. Like, this card is just generically good. Not to mention his Spirit Boost is just hard removal. And if you just kind of put some of the pieces together, this leader, if your opponent doesn't have Barrier on the board, this leader, with the help of Finn SR from last set, can board clear for 3 energy in black. And that's a bit of utility that black has not quite had at their disposal just like that. Like, wow, that's a nice field. It'd be a shame if I just finned you and then tapped 1 Spirit Boost and removed the dude you decided to keep. Like, that's actually... Yeah, I'm getting the sweats just thinking about it. This leader's about to be good. For real.
It is incredibly good. And one thing I'll say is that, like, the fact that this is probably one of the most relevant Spirit Boost abilities that we've like probably ever seen, right? Like, it's like just clean removal, and we've struggled to find good Spirit Boost abilities for a while now. Just because it feels like it's disjointed. Like, the only really good ones are cards that you feel probably would have been designed without Spirit Boost in the first place. So like the Dragon Fist Goku in yellow has Spirit Boost to proc off his effect, but like in that deck it just kind of feels tacked on. It never really feels like that's an actual cost, because just the way the deck functions, and then your leader gets to tutor 1 out. But here we have black, and then we do have the SS4 Bardock Unison, where he's got Spirit Boost that you get to send 1 battle card from your opponent's drop to the warp. So like, it does a little bit of cleanup there. It's nothing too crazy, but it's just, if anything ever gets printed with Spirit Boost in the future, then like it definitely helps out in terms of just being one of the most accessible ways to Spirit Boost. But the card does everything, and I think is going to be seen like I said, I don't even play black, and I want to play this. So like, hey, I'm all reins in for Super Saiyan God Trunks as far as the next set goes.
Yeah.
Leading into it though, we also did get an SR reveal. So if you guys like Divine Presence, well, we got SSG Trunks Power Awakened. Is a 5-drop 4 specified black, 20k deflect dual attacker. Permanent if this card removed from your battle, remove it from the game instead. Auto when this card attacks, place up to 3 black battle cards from your warp to their owner's drop. And finally, for activate main, double black. If your lead card is black and there are 8 or more cards in your warp, play this card from your warp. So just a cheap dual attacker. Yeah, it's a good card. I don't think it's anything crazy, but it's solid.
So I actually think this card is probably as good as it can be without being toxic to the format, in my opinion, because it's got deflect. So you're not God sealing this dude. You're not Goku monkeying it. You're not doing all these things. However, the things that limit it is it doesn't have any sort of protection, which is honestly, it needs that, because otherwise it would be snapped in half. And then if it gets killed, it gets removed from the game, which is going to stop you from looping it, because this card in this deck would be so easy to just keep warping from Overrealm and then just playing it over and over again. But the thing about this card is it's high risk, low protection. You play this and your opponent can Kefla you and it goes. There's actually, being a 5 cost, there's actually a surprising amount. Like the low cost tucks that blue gets that hit 4 or less won't touch this guy, but there's a surprising amount of cards that will touch this guy. However, after getting over its negatives, we got to look at its positives. There will be turns where, by the way, I guess talking about the leader, he is also another turn 2 awakening. There are multiple ways that you can get turn 2 awakenings with this leader, and he doesn't have to go down on life. So most of the times you'll be awakening on 7 life with that leader. And then he's got blocker, but you're at 7 life, and you can use the ancient art of Rocky Balboa, which is blocking with your face anytime a leader has blocker. And this guy is a higher level of aggression. He doesn't have a energy cost. So there will be turns where, you can swing with your leader, get your draw. You can swing with your unison, which if you're using the themed unison is a 15k. You can pay 2 energy and play this dude. And you can swing twice. And on 2 energy and your opponent being on 1 energy, they won't really have the necessary outs to kill this guy off the board. Meaning you can just put 6 cards back into your battle area and then play Fighting Against Fate. And then swing 2 more times. And that means on turn 2 energy, you have amassed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swings. Not to mention, if this is your awakening turn, you had access to 3 energy that turn, not 2. So there may be able to, you can keep something up for, like, there's a lot. One of them could have a Champa on it. Like, there's just a lot. So it's kind of wild because this is going to be a crazy card to see come down on turn 2. Like, no matter how you cut it. Like, on turn 2, outside of just negating an attack, there's nothing you can do to, like, get this guy off the board for the most part. And he probably will get up in cheeks. I think this guy, like I said, he's the best he can be without being snapped.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of providing us a card that like will actively make us want to play it, but not something that like I don't see us ever wanting to ban this card because like he is very answerable, but he's also incredibly good if he's able to run away with the game. So, like I'm fine with it. I like it. I think it's not too broken, but it's also does what it needs to do. So I think it's like you said, though, the fact that the leader can awaken at like 7 or 8 life, depending on how defensive you want to be, is actually kind of nuts. So the fact that like you can do that and then go into these insanely aggressive plays definitely makes it way more viable than I was thinking initially.
I already know the amount of times that people will be just extremely upset dropping down a 2 life on their opponent's turn 2 because of a card like this, and Fighting Against Fate will be pretty upsetting.
Yeah. But nevertheless, black really good. Makes me interested to jump into it. The last card that we'll talk about today, and actually pivots right well into what we hope going into set 16, is Kusu, Angel of Universe 10. It is a 2-drop blue and green specified cost, so it is a dual color card with energy exhaust. Counterplay, play this card. Auto, if you have 1 or more multicolor energy, when this card is in your hand is played or used in a combo, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and places it at the bottom of their deck. Auto, when this card is played, you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 6 or less and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. So effectively Vegeta the Cruel on crack, if you had to ask me. And some people are sleeping on this card. Some people have like honestly told me like they think this card's bad, and I don't know what they're on about. I think this card is insanely good.
It must be those same players trying to put this Goku and Gohan saying it's going to destroy the form. Those Goku Frieza players, they'll get you every time with their card quality. It takes.
I think Zamasu was a sneak peek of what they were trying to do with multicolored 2-drop counterplays. So when they introduced the multicolor set initially, we got a full wave of multicolor interactive battle counterplay. So blue got Gohan, green got Vegeta the Cruel, yellow got Champa. Can't remember for the life of me what red got, which is very on brand. But in general, I think what Zamasu was showcasing here was just what the next wave is going to look like. Now, mind you, Zamasu was incredibly pushed, arguably too much so that he got eroded. But I think Kusu here is very much in the same realm of, 1, looks like we're going to be jumping into more multicolor, but 2, just being a very good update to how counterplays are going to play out moving forward in the game.
I can definitely dig that. And it's actually really, really cool because now that you've linked Zamasu to it, because I was about to say that this card, like, according to just some of the things I was talking about when it came to freaking color identity, this really is 100% above and beyond a fusion of a green card and a blue card. Like, its effects are, if you just cut them down the middle, you could easily see this card in blue, or you look at the other effect and you could easily see it in green. And Zamasu is actually the same way. Its ability to tap something and counter something, and it was definitely on crack, but like it was a very blue-yellow effect. So I would not be surprised if it did have that. And to get even further, Zamasu is a god. So like it very well kind of feels like if this is a cycle, Zamasu just kind of got released early. But like a lot of people were thinking that this is the set where multicolor is going to come in, and now that we've seen 3 cards, I'm firmly believing that this is just going to be another set with 5 colors and then a cycle or 2 of multicolored.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get some angels and whatnot. Like, I mean, because like angels are a great way to kind of be in this space, because you're not going to make an entire like universe 10 deck. Like, real talk, think to yourself right now, close your eyes and tell me 3 members of universe 10. That's right. Like, that's literally right.
Kusu? I don't.
I mean, like, it's like 100%. They're not making a whole deck off of Universe 10. That's just not happening. Get out your heads. However, they can just put the angels as a cycle of multicolored cards that are going to do something. And that does work. We have 5 colors and we have 11 universes. There's a way for them just to kind of sneak that in and satisfy the, oh, we want angels in the game, without, you know, just completely making weird archetypes off of characters that are honestly fodder. So, but I mean, yeah, I think it's actually really, really cool. I can't wait to see what we're going to get past this. Whis and Vados better be nutsack stupid. Like, I would love that. And I would love to see color combinations that make sense. Like, we keep getting U7 in red, and U6 has been kind of all over the place. They've literally been in every single color except black. So, like, is that true? Yeah, they've been in red, yellow, green, and blue. Yeah, wow.
They've been everywhere. I mean, you know, if you want to count Power Burst for Caulifla, but besides that, yeah, no, black is the only place that they haven't played in.
Yeah, so all right, so I mean that's pretty much that. Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing what the other effects do. Like, if this is an effect on this one, then we can have like a red blue one, and the red blue card could bounce something or minus something and bounce something. Like, there's just like so many things they can do if they're going to play this close to color identities. So I'm very excited, because I think that red and blue is a really good combination, and every time red and blue can be pulled off successfully well in a format, generally the deck is a pretty good power lighthouse. And I would have played red blue Gohan, but there wasn't just enough ways to bridge the 2 colors. Like, the Invoker pieces don't really work with the deck, and Cooler is cool and all, but essentially the deck got so tight, the only way you could really effectively run red blue was to run 4 the Beerus super combo, which is just kind of like not optimal, and then 4 coolers, and you know, it just made consistency issues. So I'm actually really hopeful to see maybe 2 multicolor cards per combo of color, so we can kind of expand a little bit more. But this card is a lot of power, and I mean, if you thought Android 16 had some rogue value before, like, this is slotting right into that. This is also going to help a lot of decks kind of go into a little bit of a color spread. Like, every time, what people need to realize is every time they make a good multicolor card, a good generic multicolor card, you make it easier to make hybrid color decks. Because if I'm going to run 4 of these anyway, why not just run 4 more multicolor cards or the check land and have access to 2 colors? So you just kind of bridge that synergy a little bit more every time you make a good card like Zamasu, or in this case, Kusu. So I'm open-minded. I'm happy.
Yeah, and this is definitely a good time to lead into, you know, our set 16 hopes and predictions. Like, for me, one of the big predictions was, like you were saying, I really thought there was going to be a multicolor set. The placeholder art for the box was Energy Explosion, and it seemed like Saiyan Showdown was kind of a bridge set. We had a lot of multicolor friendly art types. Now, you know, playability aside, you know, we got Turles in yellow, and actually a lot of the Turtle stuff in yellow is incentivized to work with the green Turtle stuff. Again, playability aside, because I don't think that deck actually works out the way that they hope. It seemed like they were doing this thing where we're now transitioning into, okay, we have a monocolor set, but it's multicolor friendly, and this will help us bridge the gap into what this multicolor Unison Warrior set will be, which, like, I was kind of looking forward to, because I'm actually kind of hoping for a change in the formula. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of sick of talking about Unison Warrior. I'm kind of sick of feeling like every set is kind of samey, because it's all these focus on like mechanics that work with unisons, and like, yes, I get your new card type and like you guys want to push it, but it's like, it's been 5 sets now. Like, can we at least shift the focus out somewhere else? So now I agree with you, where like, now that we've seen a few leaders, we've seen a few Archetype cards, it definitely feels like, again, this is a monocolor set that will be friendly to multicolor and maybe provide like a cycle or two of cards, which I don't mind, is fine. But I would like to see set design try and push out of the box right now. Like it feels like a lot of archetypes are doing like samey things. Like one of the big things that I always go back to is Helku. So Helku plays like miracles in a sense for those guys who play like Magic the Gathering, where basically you flip the top card of your deck, and based on what you flip, you're able to activate abilities from the card that was flipped. But in Helku, it like you would think that because it's like that kind of a strategy, there's so many interesting things they could go away, like different things and mechanics, and you could be weird about it because like it's kind of like a weird thing to do. But at the end of the day, what it really ends up being is that you have a way to get a crit on board, a double striker on board, and like removal on board, and like that's really all the deck does. So it's like it feels like every deck now is kind of, I mean, even Launch was like, if you played the core Launch engine, it was a way to get a double striker on board, a critter on board, and like a 50k value beat stick on board. So it feels like a lot of archetypes now are based around this. Okay, we're gonna do this interesting way of just getting a crit, a double strike, and a whatever on board. So I'd like the introduction of multicolor, which it seems like they're doing a little bit this year at least, to re-incentivize unique and interesting ways to play. And I would hope that set 16 pushes that a little bit more the envelope, since it does feel like Saint Showdown and the set before were starting to get a little samey. And power level issues aside, like obviously it would be nice for the power levels to kind of rebalance themselves again, but that would be like my biggest thing for set 16. And like hopefully based on the reveals we've seen today, it does seem like some of that is leading true.
So first off, Helku happens to be the quickest, most efficient engine on putting free blockers on your board. That's what half that archetype does. You got a double striker who has removal, critical, and then you literally have like 5 blockers. Like everybody was like, Helku can freaking look at the top couple cards of your deck. You're never gonna draw dead. Nope, you will draw dead, because at some point a bunch of blockers with no barrier is never going to win you the game. Like, you're going to feel bad every single time. You have to play a certain amount of that archetype to make the deck go. And a lot of that archetype are the cards that just don't do anything. So it's like, it's interesting. I definitely like the base of Helku. I just think it needed a couple more cards that did something to come off the top of the deck. Mm-hmm. Touching back on your Turles stuff, the green yellow Turles cards seem to be Bandai's Band-Aid apology to rebooting a leader outside of its color in 2 sets time. Like, they made Turles, and Turles was like, yay, I'm in green. And then like they realized at some point, okay, we're a game where you take your life as a resource. So I guess it's not really cool that Turles needs your opponent's life to stay where it is, where you leave it. So we're going to do it with your life instead. And like, that's a pretty good idea. But what if we made it yellow? And it's like, no, stop this. And they're just like, no. Hear me out. It worked with veggies. No, it didn't. It worked with Ginyu Force. No, it didn't. It's yellow now. And then they just attempted to put an effect on the unison that allowed you to use Fruit of the Tree of Might, because that's not confusing. Instead of just reprinting the card in yellow, they were like, nope, here's this all out of the way effect for you to use Tree of Might or Fruit of the Tree of Might in this yellow deck, but it's the green card. So, I mean, that's not clunky. Look, it's just kind of weird to me. Like, it's really weird to me. And they made all these weird little bridge pieces like you were actually going to play yellow, green Turles. As for the set, I'm going to go into a deeper amount of speculation when it comes to what things I expect to be in there, like leader-wise, in a video. However, when it comes to the set in general, what I'm looking for, 100%, I need red to get some generic early to mid game tools. I need colors to feel like they are in their correct realms and perform well. So yellow needs to get shafted. Yellow cannot get a single card in this next set, and it would still probably be just as strong, if not stronger, than any other color coming up in the next set. It's kind of weird because, like we said before, blue is in a good place. So they don't really need more powerful cards. They need more options. But blue and yellow are the de facto good card deck colors. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to like spit the bad juju into the world,
green either gets a good archetype or green is still crap, because there's no way you can just release an entire set of generically good green cards. They're going to have a certain amount of them that are going to be archetype based. So if green gets a good archetype, we might see some playable green. But if green doesn't, then there's going to be some jank archetypes. Hopefully they get a couple gems. I just need the power level of everybody else to go up. And black is already looking like it's going there. The Trunks is a very good indicator for me, because he's, like I said, he's easy come, easy go pressure. And I think that's what black needs to be. But he also falls into making other black plays that we would like to make by, recycling those cards. So that's really good. I'm just trying to hope that the game gets more fun to play. And I hope that they can upset the status quo of yellow without putting half of yellow's good cards on a limit list. But to do that, they're going to have to power creep. And the thing that kind of scares me is if you look at the timeline, if you're just obsessing over these details like I do, it looks like Bandai's about 5 months out. Because when they first gave us the box of Sand Showdown, and the placeholder, or so we thought was a placeholder, was the Family Kamehameha. We all thought that was a placeholder.
Yep.
And then, month or so, 2 months later, when we got set 16 there, they put Energy Explosion Son Goku, which again, we all thought was just a placeholder. Then we get the Goten spoiled along with the Goku and Gohan, and we realized that, they're not the main focus of the set, but this was a theme in the set. And sure enough, the same thing was proven to be true for Ultra Instinct Son Goku. So when you look at these timelines, they put that box art up 5 months before the set released. And the thing that kind of gets to me about that is, if it depends on how aware they were about the power level of their cards. If they didn't see Power of a Super Saiyan and Turles and all these cards in conjunction with each other being a problem, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the confidence of next set fixing this current format's issues, because this set has essentially been conceptually created probably about 3-4 months ago. So that's kind of my scary thing. If they thought green was in a good place half a year ago, this set isn't the set that's going to fix that. So that scares me, but I'm going to cross my fingers. Hopefully I'm just over obsessing about details too much and I'm looking too far into it. But I am there's an order to how these things happen, and it takes time. Like, any feedback that people are getting today very likely won't be implemented for a couple of months at the very minimum, just because of how the schedule has to go for design and print and then release. So a lot of people who will complain about, oh, well, this problem isn't addressed. It's like, well, when you were complaining about this problem, the new set was already being printed. So it's not like these spoilers were going to cater to what you thought was ruining the meta. So that's why ban lists tend to happen a lot with Bandai, because those bans they'll trim the format much quicker than new cards will, just in general. So yeah, I'm excited for this set. I'm just not quite sure if it's going to change up the game as much as we think or hope it's going to.
Yeah, I think the biggest shakeup will probably happen in set 17, because like you said, 5 months, 6 months does sound about right in terms of the amount of time it takes in between the releases. So I think, with the advice that we're hearing that we're trying to give now on the sets, and we've been giving, our moods about the format and the sets for a couple of months now, I do think set 17 is when we're going to see the biggest evolution and shift. And for the most part, I'm not really looking for sweeping bans. Like you said, I'm not trying to kill yellow. I actually think if I look at yellow, I'm like, it's almost actually fine. It's overtuned and it does everything. But realistically, to me, if you need to do something on the ban list, I would say maybe do something about Power of the Super Saiyan, and then a lot of yellow is a little bit more clunkier because of it. But generally, I believe we're in a position where we could just buff up the other colors, like you were saying, and that's probably fine. Now, how do they go about that? I don't know. And will they go about it in a way that makes sense? Who knows? Because green and red definitely need that kind of support. But it's definitely a point where I think we could actually just bump up the power levels of those a little bit more. Maybe fine tune yellow a little bit, and we'll be in a good spot. So
yeah, I actually 100% and the main thing I think that, I mean, I'm not sure how many people are gonna like or dislike this take, but
It's archetypes. If you look at yellow, one of the reasons why yellow is so strong is that all of yellow's best cards are not archetype restricted. You can find the best leader slash vehicle to draw all these cards, cock off Icarus, and you can have a ball. But if Icarus got killed today, yellow could simply move on to the next best leader, and it will lose some speed because of the speed of its draw. But it still has access to all of these cards that make yellow good. Meanwhile, red, it's like, are you playing King Piccolo? Are you playing the U7 engine? Are you playing Red Broly? Like, it's all archetype based. So you can't bring the best of the best cards in red together for the most part. Like, the best combination you have is like Violent Rays and Divine Presence, and those can fit in almost any deck, but you have to find the archetype thing. Green, I don't think green can safely ever be as generic as yellow. Because imagine like a deck where you could use the Cell Chain and Ribrianne like in the same deck. Like, I mean, you literally could, but I'm saying like imagine like you using like this Vegeta leader with the Cell Chain, and then you still have access to like Ribrianne as well. Like, if you make green as generic as yellow, you just have some of the most destructive hand destruction in any TCG's like known history. So I get why green is kind of limited to archetypes. I think it's the most heavily locked color, and it sucks sometimes. But the effects are too good to let everything be free flowy. But I really do think that's how you buff the other colors. Like, yellow just has access to all of its power pretty much across the board, whereas other colors you have to pick and choose. And that pick and choosing comes with the weaknesses of each archetype. Where yellow freely gets to go, that card's not good enough, that's great. We just won't play it because we don't need to. Like, good cards only club. And yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right. So some things to look forward to, involving what we think of like the current set, but for the most part, still hopeful. The cards that we've shown for the most part have been pretty phenomenal. If not so much mechanically, at least art wise, they speak to us, I think. A lot to look forward to, and I think spoiler season reveal videos, trailers was set to be this week, so hopefully we get something at the end of the week to kick off maybe spoiler season. Maybe not the week of Christmas, but maybe the week after, something like that. So here's to hoping we get some stuff on that front. But in terms of like getting things, last topic we have for today, the gift boxes and mythic boosters have released. Europe has gotten the mythic boosters. We will only get him here in North America in January, but we have gotten gift boxes, and gift boxes in them do have mythic booster packs. And there's actually a question relating to this moving forward, so I guess I'll just kind of keep it light before we jumping into the question segment. I like the reprint set. I think there's a couple of singles I want to pick up. I've been holding out on picking up Thwartings, and since there's no tournaments anytime soon for Dragon Ball until we kick back up in like February, I think, I'll probably just wait for the January release of the Mythic Booster to keep driving that price down. But there's definitely a couple of alt arts. I think Acrobatic is like an alt art that I'm looking to pick up. Sensu Bean, I already have my full Sensu Bean, so like I'm not looking into it, but like I think that's also a pretty sweet pickup. Anything from the gift box / Mythic Booster that you'll be looking to add some bling to your stuff, or just pick up a reprint?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Literally so many. And I have to openly like get slightly annoyed with the player base once more. When you guys talk about being responsive in terms of Bandai being responsive, this is the type of stuff you have to look at. Like, getting a whole new set requires design, and it requires like whatever testing. Actually, I'm not even getting into that subject. I didn't even say testing. I don't think testing happens. It requires design, and then they have to get the like stuff all put together, and you have to print it. So those things, like we were saying, are probably in like a 5-month-ish clock. Now, these reprint sets, they can be jump started so much quicker because all you're doing is finding a different art and then maybe changing the foiling. So when you see Thwarting being put in as a reprint, despite Thwarting coming out not even a full, like, what was it, half year ago?
Yeah, about
around there. That is a direct result. Like, look at the cards in Mythic Booster, like Koitsukai, Thwarting. These are direct results of people saying, I cannot find this card, help me. Like, please, I don't want to pay $300 for a set of these dudes. Like, please. And so these are the sets you need to look at when you ask yourself, is Bandai responsive? Because they didn't have to put thwarting in crap right now. Like, they did not. They didn't have to put Koitsukai in anything right now. Like, these are 100% trying to help us. And I dig that. Now that I've pulled it up, installed accordingly, I would say I want to pick up Celzino, but I need it in its old art because its new art's kind of like actually taking it. Fighting Against Fate is really good, but my homie has like for some reason like 6 winners, and so I just bum 2 off him at all times. Beyond All Limits, great card. Thwarting, great card. There is so much in here. I mean, like even the Piccolo Unison from the pre-release is just actually good. Like it's a good card. It serves its purpose, but at the same time, you can only get it from pre-releases, so why not have it? For people complaining about Prospect being reprinted for the 6th time, well, congratulations. When Bandai makes another deck that starts cheating out 6 drops, and blue happens to be a good color, and prospects shoot up to like $80 per prospect again for the 8th time, you're going to be happy that Mythic Booster reprinted it for the 5th time. So just like shut up and just be happy that this card may never rise above $20 ever again, because I don't know what you want. Like there was a point where prospect was like $75 per prospect, no matter what rarity you could find it in. Like it had 3 reprints, and its value is like strong as hell.
Yeah, I think that happened specifically because I think they sent out a bunch of like questionnaires for new products back to back to back, and it was all around when Prospect was like a $70 card. So all of a sudden, like, damn, I guess the player base really likes Prospects. Throw it in everything. And like you said, it took like 4 reprints for it to go like below $50.
like its value could not be marred by common sense. Like, but then again, the worst part was like it was a TP card, and then a winner's card, and then its reprint was a freaking championship. It's like you made a reprint that was just as hard to obtain, and like the original prospects rotated out of locals, and they were only in championship packs. So like you made a reprint, but it was just as hard to get. So it just maintained its cruising altitude of like 80 per prospect. I'm like, thanks. I'm like, that didn't make any sense. But I mean, this set has so many Koitsukais. Look, Koitsukai is just going to be a card that until they hit it, it will always be something you want to keep 3 of and minimum in your binder. There's never going to be a time where like a deck won't look at Koitsukai and go, will this hurt me? So it's just, there's the good stuff. I mean, Zarbon Cosmic Elite's up in this piece. Like this set is actually disgusting. Like say what you want about it, but as many cards as you might feel are duds in here, like why is there set 1 TP Ginyu in here? Ain't nobody using set 1 TP Ginyu. But you know what? You may use Zamasu Deity's Wrath. Like, yes, you may use that. There's a whole bunch of good stuff in this pack that's worth picking up, and I don't think anybody is going to be mad at that. There's even some cool stuff in here that wasn't foiled before. Like, I mean, you've got the 1-drop Super Saiyan 3 Goku in yellow with good art. The Sparking Negates being reprinted with new art is absolutely wonderful. I don't really get some of these leaders being reprinted, but I'm not going to touch on that either. The point is, like if anybody was sitting here going, Miracle Strike Gogeta, yes, now that he's reprinted, I can destroy the format with maximum flair. Nobody was saying that. Kefla Surge has been memed on for a good long time. It's just, this was a very, 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 very good move on Bandai's part. They released a bunch of cards, and some of these are just fan favorites. Some of these are very good cards, but the point is, it's a good set. Like, it maintains a lot of value. Like, it's not like some games make reprint sets and they're instant doo-doo, like secondary market-wise by the time they come out. But since a set of Thwartings was already like $240, a set of Thwartings now is like maybe sometimes anywhere between $45 and $60. That's still nice. I just need these to be more accessible because I'm tired of waiting for it. Like, people are juicing out here. They're like, stupid Americans can't get your Thwartings. I got you. And I mean, granted, that's fair. I won't front. That's fair because for a long time we've been like, stupid Europeans, you want this card? Pay top dollar. But like, I mean, it's like the tables have turned. Like, I want to be mad about delays, but then I just look at like Europe being like, "Hey, guess what? You can't get this set for 2 more months," and it's like, well, you know what? I'll just shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. But actually kind of leads really well into the first question actually we have. So we're going to jump into Think on Charge. If you guys have any questions you'd like to ask myself or Chris, feel free to just jump into the Espira TCG Discord. There is a channel there. Feel free to ask any questions and we will try to get to them on air. And actually this first one comes from Carlo, where he says, what is your opinion on Bandai dedicating full sets to reprinted cards? How do you think this will impact what decks people play? I think the product is phenomenal. I think it's a good balance between one, getting players who are jumping into the game some key cards. You know, there's Sensu Bean in there. There are archetype cards. There are generic cards. I'd argue there could be a couple more generic cards, but in general, there are cards in there that definitely allow people to be able to pick up playing competitively better. And the fact that they went with not only having reprints, but also spicing up the set by having alternate art foils for cards that people already love. Like for me, like I own a lot of decent cards, but I will definitely be picking up a bunch of singles in regards to a bunch of like alternate art foils that I never had access to before, or just like upgrades in my eyes to things I already have in my deck. So I think sets like these are phenomenal. I've seen like core sets. Magic the Gathering tried to get rid of core sets, and they brought them back afterwards when they realized that actually being able to reprint cards without being restricted to the theme of a set is like incredibly important. And now what they do is like, it's like something along the lines of like 50 or 60% reprints, and then the other 40% are like impactful new cards, which they tried to do with the draft box, and that kind of flopped the way they did it initially. I really like the set. I think this set caters to a wide variety of player bases. It gets cards in the players' hands, and it shows that they're not afraid to reprint SCRs, which like I think is a good thing, because the thing we want in this game is to be as accessible as possible, because I think growth is where we need to focus. So I like the set a lot.
I will actually 100% second that. This set is, like George said, it's phenomenal, and it does really encompass everybody, whether you're a collector and you want new art, whether you're a new player and you want to catch up, whether you're a day one player and you still don't have freaking Koitsukas because them bitches have been like $60 plus since inception. Like I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just saying I didn't have any hopes of wanting to buy Koitsukas until this set came out. So this is actually just really, really good. And I think that this is going to be a good model with a caveat. And that caveat is, as long as somebody is actually paying attention to reprints in terms of their necessity. Because, like, I'm going to be real, there are half of these reprints that are just like hot fire. Thank you, Bandai. And then there's half of these reprints, like, what is this Sun Goten Awakening the Beast? Like, did anybody ever need this card? Like, ever? Like, and so it is like that. Like, you have a bunch of cards that are just like no, and you have a bunch of cards just like yes. I love Revived Ravager Vegeta. However, I have a stack of 17 of them. Yeah. And so this reprint doesn't do anything. If you needed one, you could have hit me up in my Discord, and I'd be like, sure, I'll ship a set. And that's just a thing. So it's, as long as we have somebody paying attention to them, and it seems like we have, the fact that you have Kaioken, Deity's Wrath, like Cosmic Elite, or is that his name? Yeah, Cosmic Elite, Koitsukai. Like, you have enough things in here where you can tell people are paying attention. A neat little bit of information this tells us. I've been a very much so advocate for rotation. Nah, if Bandai is printing full on printing reprint sets, none of these cards are being put on the shelf due to a ban list. It's just not happening. Like, before, I could make a case for it. The Sensu Bean's been reprinted a lot, but you know what? And then they just make this entire set of 0 new cards. Nah, rotation is just not in Bandai's wheelhouse for this deck. It's just not happening. But I think it's really good. This is a very, very healthy product. And I think Mythic Booster is an experiment for them, but I think it's an experiment that has gone well for them. I think we are going to get a Mythic Booster too. It just may take 2 years.
Yeah, fair. But I think it was well received. And like, you know, since they're like designed 5 months down the line, like you said, like we're probably not going to see another one until well into 2023. But I think it's definitely a good step forward, at least in terms of like trying to provide the community the things that it needs or is asking for.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to the last question we have from Marker Mate. What was the card/deck that got you into the game, and do you think about playing it again from time to time? I'll let you lead this question, Chris. What got you in?
Oof. See, it wasn't a particular card for me. It was the fact that for years, if you were a TCG lover, you know that never really leaves your bloodstream. There are times where you don't play TCGs and you're always looking at them from the side. Oh, that's cool, or this is cool. You might look at some deck lists, be like, I don't know why the format's gone this way, but this is cool. And so I played Yu-Gi-Oh! From when I was 17 to when I was about 22. And then I played Magic the Gathering from like that time until I was like 24. It was like a short year, but I just went to as many Star City games as I could. Dabbled in a bunch of TCGs, like Force of Will, friggin' Vanguard, Pokemon, Solitaire, pretty much Solitaire. There's just a lot of stuff. And when my favorite anime of all time, Dragon Ball Z, I saw they were doing like another TCG, and I just saw the foils for the first time. I was like, maybe, but I'm not sure if that's a rabbit hole I want to dive into. And I went to my local game store and I saw everybody playing, and I was like, sign me up. And so it wasn't really a specific card, but I did start off playing Blue Vegeta in set 1. And I don't really ever think about going back to that, because that deck very much so hinged on some cards that are no longer in the game, like Unyielding being at 4 to allow its pressure to be. But it's kind of wild because I'm going to be a weird person about this. If things like Unyielding weren't banned, I think Vegeta could still be played today. Like, you have access to 8 Champas.
True.
And then you have Unyielding. Like, how molding would you be if your opponent back to back to back chomped you with crit?
Yeah, I hadn't considered it until you didn't bring up Champa. I was like, I don't know, man. That sounds kind of dumb. Like, why would I do that? I'm like, no, actually, he's self-awakened, so your card draw isn't that bad. And like, yeah, you could just Champa turn to turn to turn, and it's a crit leader. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
It's like, even if I get Champa twice, even on turn 1 and turn 2, I'm just like, well, that doesn't feel good. That's -4 cards I could have had. I'm awakening on a turn I really didn't feel like I'm established to awaken. Because, I mean, you guys play the game, you should know how good it feels awakening when you're ready to, and how bad it feels awakening on the back foot. Nobody's trying to awaken on 2 energy, not getting any of those cards to their hand. That's poo-poo. So it just be what it be. But no, I don't think I think about really playing it too much anymore. What about you, George?
So, and we'll probably end up doing an episode at some point talking about more details about how we specifically jumped into the game. But in terms of like this game, move cities, which meant my Magic group in Montreal, like I was no longer playing with them. So I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like playing Magic in a new city, especially since Magic Arena released and I could just do it through that. So let's pick up a new card game. It was a coin toss between Final Fantasy and Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was an easier sell to my friends, so I said, all right, fuck it. I guess we'll go with Dragon Ball. So my first deck actually, and I'm a competitive, like I'm a spike through and through. So the first deck I pick up is always a competitive deck because I want to feel what the game plays like at its peak to know if I like it or not. So my first deck was, I joined the game when like TOP had just released. So my first deck was Ginyu Veggies. But I'd say the deck that really sold me on the game, which I bought not long after playing Ginyu Veggies, was Universe 7 Victory Strike with like the yellow Frieza lead. I'm a degenerate. I
was just thinking that word.
I don't like interacting with my opponents. When I played Magic, it was always extra turn decks and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, killing my opponent while they have 8 life feels really, really good. So being able to do that was definitely probably in terms of like what sold me on the game. Yeah, that was it. And then I think about the deck all the time. I'm constantly thinking about how I could pull off Victory Strike. It's just they've been really, really careful about not giving us like viable Gokus to go into. Height of Mastery is still probably the most reliable package, and right now that's just kind of a tough archetype to get off, especially since we don't got cards like Shugesh and stuff. So generally speaking, I'm constantly thinking about it. I think about the units like Vegeta, I think, or Frieza, I think about all the time because like he's still a decent leader. He draws without interacting, but that is a deck I think about all the time.
I mean, they were kind of clear on the fact that we will probably never, like, you can just look at their design space. Bandai is never going to, as far as I know, give us a Cell, Xeno, or an Apex again. Like, they are firmly not trying to just let people just lose. Like, again, shameless plug, go over and watch Fight Night 2 on my channel. There's a game where they just, like, RKO, like John Cena popped out, you could not see him. Cell Xeno came through and turned what looked to be a I am dead next turn, no questions asked, into a, well, I guess we're going to game 2. Nice game, scrub. And like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, the card is too powerful, just like honestly too powerful. And so it's kind of wild. But like, in terms of like Victory Strike, man, you're giving me like mad Yu-Gi-Oh vibes. I still remember, like, for anybody that does like Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a card called Vanity's Emptiness. It's a trap card. You flip it up and neither player can special summon. And then if any card from your field goes to the graveyard, the card blows up. And so the floodgate's gone. And there was a Nationals where a very good player named Patrick Hoban ran 3 of them in his deck that spam special summons. And he would just establish his board and flip a Vanity's Emptiness and stare at his opponent. And his opponent would be like, well, I can't do remotely anything you just did, so I guess I'll just pass. And when he wanted to turn it off, he'd just get something off his board into the grave and make sure he can set another one. And when they asked him, like, what was the strategy? He was just like, well, I could play 13 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh! And get tired, or I could play 13 rounds of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where my opponent can't play. Easy. Like, and like the community was just stunned because they were expecting to hear him talk about like outplaying his opponent, and he was just like, bro, like, it's, you don't have to outplay your opponent if they can't play the game. I was like, a national champion? Like, that's just so disgusting. It's next level, but it's so disgusting.
I'm about it. It sounds like bliss to me, man.
You said it speaks to me. Oh my gosh! I mean, that isn't quite wrong, but it definitely doesn't feel right either.
Yeah, that's a mood. I mean, I've had my brother stare at me like look like he was about to pull out the knife from the kitchen after like 2 or 3 victory strikes in a row. I'm like, I know how you feel, bro.
I mean, it just feels bad. Like, it feels bad. You drop to 0 life, you lose the game, or so you thought. Like, 8 life, 160k combo. I'm like, well.
Can't be countered, which at the time meant everything. So, you know, pretty good.
No, you don't have any blockers on board. That'd be preposterous.
Oh, yeah. You know what? How about the next Victory Strike we print? It basically foos your opponent.
You know what? It's like, you would think that's a joke. But what if I told you that before resolving this hypothetical Victory Strike with Foo's effect on it, you could look into your opponent's hand and make sure it has 0 resistance before playing?
Good.
Oh, the epitome of balance. So balanced. Fair balanced gameplay.
Every time.
You said every time. I just don't know what they were thinking about that effect, man. Like, come on.
They want us to play it.
Oh my gosh, like, it's just like, could you imagine being in your play circle and losing a game that you resolved Apex? Like, just like being disowned. I feel like that's grounds for desponsorship. Like, they're just like, so you looked in your opponent's hand, and you chose their best card, and then chose to play Apex, and you didn't win, give me your jersey.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
I don't know. That's a decision that comes to mind, but like it's just it did everything right. So like I can't complain. I'd love to see a revival of Invoker, but I had a good run. It was a deck I bought, and then like I got utility out of it for like over 2 years. Like I can't complain. And
I mean, 100%. It's definitely a deck where like it can only be so like you can't ever say Invoker is doo-doo. Like Invoker is always going to be one of the better off-brand decks, regardless of the format. But there are going to be certain formats where it's just better. Like you can look at almost any format, and if that format doesn't include good barrier removal, Invoker can probably steal a top slot in the event.
this
It's
format,
just like
I think Invoker with like catastrophic blow on errata would actually be broken.
100% when decks don't like function until 4 energy out of their max capacity. Yes, Invoker would be so disgusting.
Oh god. Well, that was Thinking on Charge, guys. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump into the Discord and jump on the channel, and we will answer your question on air. But with that said, guys, that was the first relaunch episode of the Super Combo Podcast. Chris, what do you got going on this week? If people jump on your channel, what do they got to look forward to?
I'm gonna be real. This may seem like I have all this content planned out, but I really be at work. I'd be at work drafting videos the same day I'm going to record them after I get home. So, what is it? It is 1:14 right now. I need to be up in 6 hours. But I'm probably still going to record a little bit of in-depth. I think tomorrow. Well, this week you should be seeing. I've already uploaded my fight night, my second fight night. You should be seeing a little bit of my like more in-depth takes on the cards, little breakdown. You'll also be, and also my leader predictions for set 16. Since there's only 3 cards to go over, I'm probably just going to go into the leader predictions in the same video. What else? It actually honestly depends on whether or not we get a trailer. If we get a trailer before Christmas, then we're definitely going to dive into that. But honestly, it's a holiday week, and I'm a little stretched on time this week, so I don't know what I'm going to give you until I give it to you. Like, you will look at my channel's community page, and I will tease what I'm going to be dropping the same day I'm recording it. I'm sorry, I don't have anything put together. You want to see me get put together? Subscribe to the channel to the point where I can like absorb more ad revenue. And as I work less, I will plan more. That's all I gotta say. I'm fighting my motherfucking life out here.
Yeah, very, very fair. I'm on that sentiment too. Just busy. I'm out of town tomorrow. But I've been promising the one-on-ones forever now, and now that Worlds and Nats is all done, I'm still doing some stuff on the side, but I should try to hash those out maybe for the end of the week. And then I'm not gonna do like I usually do, where I like release once every day. I feel like when I do that, I actually lock up my upload schedule for like 2 weeks when I want to make other stuff. So I think we'll just do something where like we do like a delayed 4 or 5 hour between every upload for like 2 days, and then all of them will be out by basically the end of the week. So that'll be my big thing. And then if we can get a couple a DBS stream on Thursday, that'd be kind of cool. If they release the trailer, maybe we do a live stream there. But for the most part, that'll be the biggest thing. Content will really pick up more probably post holidays when we get a bit more time and don't have to do that grind.
And spoilers. And hopefully these spoilers will give us more inspiration, because I applaud you for actually finishing your 101s, because I always do like half of each set, and then at some point between like 50% and 80% of the set, I just get demoralized. Like there's always like a point where I just like hit an archetype and I'm just like, I'm not gonna cover this. Like I just look at it, and normally, like I said, normally it's only like 1 or 2 colors. But for Sand Showdown, like it hit hard. Like I think I did the red one for Sand Showdown, and I did the black for Sand Showdown. And then like I saw blue, and it was kind of a turbulent time in my life. And I saw blue and I was like, I'll get to this. And I'd like read half of Kale, and I was like, I don't know about this one, Chief. And then I tried to get back on the horse. I was like, all right, guys, you want me to do green first, then come back to blue? And my subscribers were like, yeah. And I'm sorry for this, guys. I'm sorry for this. But I literally read Goku's archetype, and I was like, there is no way I'm going to muster together the 5 functioning brain cells and like will to survive to record this Goku's archetype and run some mock games on Untapped. There's just no way. Nah. Oh my gosh. Nope.
Yeah. I've learned to just try and do the good ones last, and then hopefully it establishes my height. That's kind of my way around it at this point.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But with that said, guys, that was the first episode of the Super Combo Podcast. Let us know what you think. Should be available all over Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. So let us know in the comments what you guys thought of the first episode. Make sure to check the description and the show notes for anything that we talked about today. I'll try and have links up to Chris's stuff, as well as any of the cards and anything that we would have talked about today. This has been Espira with my co-host Chris Spencer of UniX DBS, and that was the Super Combo Podcast. And until next week, best of luck on your top deck, guys. With that, we'll catch you soon.